Elizabeth Holmes claimed her company could perform tests for hundreds of diseases with just a finger prick of blood. But on Wednesday, her trial began over charges of defrauding investors and patients. US prosecutors say the founder of the now-defunct firm Theranos lied and cheated for money and fame. But her lawyers insist she's not a villain, but rather a hardworking, young and naive businesswoman whose company failed. Natasha Hussain reports.
Elizabeth Holmes arrived for her fraud trial in California without the black turtleneck she's become famous for, a look inspired by her idol, the late Apple CEO Steve Jobs. She founded Theranos in 2003 when she was just 19 years old, and like Jobs, wanted to revolutionize technology. Holmes set her sights on making blood testing cheaper, faster, and less painful for patients. And within a few years, a Silicon Valley startup claimed to have achieved just that, saying its technology was able to run 240 tests, ranging from cholesterol to cancer, with a single pin prick to the finger instead of the usual needle to the arm, with just as much accuracy.
The claim was that they had a technology that could run the full range of laboratory tests from just a drop or two of blood pricked from the finger, get you very fast results, and do it at a fraction of the cost of regular laboratories, even cheaper than Medicare.
You founded this company 12 years ago, right?
Big names like former U.S. President Bill Clinton, former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, and Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim believed in the company and helped it attract more than $800 million from investors like media tycoon Rupert Murdoch and Oracle founder Larry Ellison.
We've created these little tiny tubes, which we call the nanotainers, which are designed to replace the big traditional tubes that come from your arm.
The nanotainers and Edison blood analysis machines were hailed as revolutionary for their quick results. Theranos inked deals to roll out its services at clinics and pharmacies across the United States. By 2014, the startup had a valuation of $9 billion, and Holmes was being hailed as the world's youngest self-made billionaire. But a year later, the company began unraveling after the Wall Street Journal reported that most of its tests were actually performed using machines bought from rival companies. Holmes continued to defend Theranos, even as the FDA began investigating.
This is what happens when you work to change things, and first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world.
It emerged that Theranos had fabricated evidence, and the blood testing technology didn't give accurate results. Former patients are set to testify against Holmes. Some had been falsely diagnosed with HIV or cancer, while a pregnant woman was incorrectly told she'd miscarried. The trial is expected to take about 4 months, and if convicted, Holmes faces up to 20 years in prison and a fine of $3 million. Natasha Hussain, TRT World.
For more on this story, let's speak with Santosh Rao in Princeton, New Jersey. He's a partner and head of research at Manhattan Venture Partners. Great to have you back with us, Santosh, as always. This trial has been a long time coming. It's been delayed several times, but it's finally underway over in San Jose, California. Prosecutors have fired the opening salvo, calling her a liar and a cheat. They'll say that she knowingly misled investors, that Elizabeth Holmes knew that her product could not deliver what she promised, yet she still continued to sell it to investors and accept hundreds of millions, if not billions, of investments from people. Do you think those charges will stick?
Yeah, I think this case is going to be very interesting and has very broad ramifications. First of all, it was not just ordinary investors. It was highly influential and very prestigious places. So obviously there was something that caught their attention, had the potential, but that's the nature of startups. You have these products that you don't know whether they'll work. They have the potential, but in this case, it looks like it wasn't a good product, and they had evidence. If they had found out, if they had admitted, okay, it's a great idea, it's not working, we give up, okay, that's fine. People know that. But they started covering up, lying, and all that, and that's what's causing this whole case against them. So I think it's a shot across the bow. All the startups who I think the government is pretty much saying you can't get away with this anymore. You raise money, you lie. Essentially, you knew that it wasn't working, you covered up. You can't just get away, walk away, and say, "Hey, the business failed. It's not going to work anymore." I think it's going to be a strong statement for the startup world that you can't. People are watching, and the days of old where you just start something, use up money, all the VC money, and then just walk away. It's not going to work anymore.
Yes, I'd like to ask you about that startup culture in Silicon Valley because it's not unusual for companies to overpromise, underdeliver until they get the product right. Some of the biggest success stories have done just that. But in this case, the difference is Elizabeth Holmes' company, Theranos, actually dealt with people's lives. And we heard there that the prosecution will allege that several people were misdiagnosed with various diseases, with pregnancies because of Theranos's testing. That is the key difference here, isn't it? It involves healthcare
Absolutely.
and people's lives.
Absolutely. That is the key difference. I mean, yes, like you said, the proof of concept takes a while. You give them the benefit of doubt, hope that it works. That's fine. That's part of the game. That's how you get new innovations. That's how you disprove all the doubters and all that. That's fine. Time. But in this case, it was, the margin of error was very low because you're dealing with people's lives. And on top of that, you lie, something that, and this is science. It's not some vague concept out in the thin air. This is science. And you should have some point for something like this that I mean they thought it'll cure everything, and that's ridiculous. On the face of it, I'm not a scientist, but on the face of it that sounds very strange. But I think people were kind of duped after they saw all the people who are following them, right, from Henry Kissinger to everyone, to Bill Clinton, everyone talking so much. I think her charisma, giving her money, and that's where they went wrong. They just look past her deficiencies and whatever her mistakes. So I think in the future, people buy this. It's going to be, and we saw that with the WeWork also. The CEO of that company was also very charismatic. People just saw him and gave him money, not realizing that the business model was flawed. So, and similarly in this case, but this one was more closer to home because it's medical and its lives depend on this. So I think all those things added up. So in this case, I think the government has a strong case against her. They need to make a statement that the days of old are over. You really can't get away with just promising something and fraud, essentially. But the government has to prove that it was an intentional fraud. And let's see if they can do that.
In this case, this trial is expected to last for several months, and I'm sure we'll all be glued to those developments. Santosh Rao, a pleasure as always. Thank you for that.